I was, as a senator, as a United States Senator, a co-author of the original George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. And as Vice President of the United States, we demand that Congress pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Joe Biden will sign it. And we should not delay, and we will not be denied. It is non-negotiable.
Okay, so we got to revisit the Tyre Nichols case, the young man that was killed by 5 black Memphis police officers. We know those officers are now arrested and charged with second-degree murder. So they had their funeral for Tyre, and Carmela spoke, and she had to bring politics into it because she doesn't know anything else. She was one of the co-sponsors of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, and as vice president, she's a failure, but as vice president, she's going to demand that Congress pass it, and Joe Biden will sign it. Number one, Joe Biden will sign anything you put in front of him because he doesn't know what it is. Number two, why do they have to bring politics into the Tyre Nichols case? I'll tell you why. Because they're racist. They are the ones who say the black police former officers were a part of the white supremacy, if you will, that goes on in policing today. They're going to push race and divide our nation as much as they can to get what they want, because after all, George Floyd was an absolute saint. Never did anything wrong. He wasn't a drug addict. He wasn't a career criminal. He was a saint. And I've said this before. George Floyd shouldn't have been killed the way he was, but he was. So get over it. It's over. He died. The person who was held accountable for it is in prison now. But they're going to keep bringing it up because they have to bring up race. And then the skinny man himself, the Reverend Al Sharpton, oh, he had to throw his 2 cents in, and basically it was all about him. And he knows what he's talking about, and he knows that what he said is basically what happens. So have a look at this clip.
Well, Reverend Al, you don't understand. How are they going to keep crime down in the black community and at the same time not be tough and rough? Well, they do it the same way they do it on the white side of Memphis, and they keep the crime down without being rough and tough. How do you have the same department that can keep crime down on one side of town without beating folk to death, but you can't do it on the other side of town unless you feel that you can get away with it there? I can't speak for everybody in Memphis. I can't speak for everybody gathering. But for me, I believe that that man had been white, you wouldn't have beat him like that night. That's why I'm still marching.
So yeah, racist. These people are racist, but we are the bad ones. We are the ones that are racist. How are you going to keep crime down in the black side of Memphis? And he says, well, you do it the way you do it on the white side of Memphis. That's a racial remark because the cops were black. And he's positive, he's absolutely positive that if Tyre Nichols was white, he would not have been beaten and killed the way he was. Now, I don't know that. They were black cops. If Tyre Nichols was white, why wouldn't they do it? They're rogue, they're dirty, that's what they do. And there's more to that story. We all know this. I have no confirmation of it. I've heard rumors and I've read things that was basically a personal attack by one of those officers, because apparently Tyre Nichols was dating one of the officers' ex-baby mama. And he was pissed off and he wanted revenge. Again, I don't know if that's true. So don't quote me on that. I'm telling you what I read and what I heard. That remains to be seen. And we'll see if that comes out in the trial of these dirty ex-cops. But Sharpton has to incite racism. He has to blame everything on the color of someone's skin. When I don't know how white supremacy had anything at all to do with 5 black dirty cops doing what they did to Tyre Nichols. See, if it was white cops on Tyre Nichols, Memphis would still be on fire right now. The Democrats would still be advocating the violence. Maxine Waters would be out there screaming for them to stay in the streets and destroy property and attack the police, because that's what Maxine Waters is about. But they weren't. They were black cops on a black young man. It ended horribly. The man lost his life because of dirty cops. But Al Sharpton doesn't want to hear that. He's never going to admit that that's the case. He's going to push the race card and say they could do the same thing on the black side as they did the white side. And in my opinion, that's absolute bullshit. Al Sharpton just loves hearing himself speak. That's all he's about. He's been a racist his entire life. He's been a bleeding hot liberal his entire life. And when he can get his moment in the spotlight, he thinks he's going to shine while he's spewing his trash. But Carmela and Al aren't the only ones. We always have to look to the windbags of The View. And this time it's Whoopi Goldberg and Sonny Hostin. Of course, they had something to say about it. And Whoopi will tell you what she's saying isn't racist, but it is. And then Sonny will play the, oh, woe is me, I'm so scared, I can't view it. So have a look at this clip.
You know, I asked this question way too many times at this table. But, you know, when will the brutality finally lead to some police reform from the ground up? Because clearly, it doesn't matter if it's a white policeman or a black policeman, it is a problem in the police, in the policing itself. You know, things don't seem to make sense to people unless it's somebody they can feel or they can recognize. But how many times do we need to see white people also get beaten before anybody will do anything? I'm not suggesting that, so don't write us and tell me what a racist I am. I'm just asking, is that what people have to see in order to wake up and realize this affects us all?
Well, you know, I have to say I haven't been able to bring myself to watch the video because I've seen so many of them. And as the mother of a black son who's 6'2" and 20 years old, my worst nightmare is what is probably on that video.
I think what she said is racist, although she had to cover herself and say, don't write in the show and say Whoopi is racist, because I'm not. I'm just saying. No, what you said was you want to see white people get beat and killed like that poor Tyre Nichols was, because you think, Whoopi thinks, that will solve the policing problem. Well, there isn't a problem in policing. There's bad police everywhere. I believe it starts at the top of a police department. If you're a bad leader, your troops are going to do what you do. And if you're rogue or you're dirty, they're going to follow your lead. A good leader leads by example. The Memphis police chief was fired from another department for allegedly covering up a case. And then she was hired in Memphis. So apparently her record isn't spotless. So was she leading the charge to be dirty cops? I don't know. It's something to think about. But Sonny Hostin, she can't bring herself to watch it. No, she can't. Because she has a son. He's 6 foot whatever, and he's 20 years old. And she's afraid that what's in that video is her worst nightmare. And, okay, she can think that. She has every right to think that way. But being Sonny Hostin, you live in a gated community. You probably can afford plenty of armed security. You know how they hate guns, but they have armed security. Why would Sonny Hostin's son be out on the street? Tyree Nichols wasn't a bad kid. He caught a bad deal, but he wasn't a bad kid. He had a job. He had a child. Sonny Hostin is again pushing the race card. And what she meant was, because my son is black, he could be out some night and get pulled over by the police and get beat to death. And we still don't know why Tyree Nichols was pulled over. We hope to find out. But these women and Al Sharpton do everything they can to push the racial envelope. They don't want police reform. They don't want cops to be angels, if you will. What they want is, they want white police officers to go down for the same thing that those 5 thugs in Memphis are going down for. They want white people to be beaten and killed. And that's my opinion. That's what they want, because they are race baiters. Everything they talk about has to do with white supremacy. You could be black, you could be Hispanic, you could be Native American, you could be Asian. And if those ethnicities commit a crime, it's because they were involved somehow, some way with people who were white supremacists. That's all they preach. Kamala Harris is nothing but a failure. She's an embarrassment to the United States. She's not a smart person. I don't care what anybody says. She speaks to adults like they're in the 3rd grade. You've all seen it. I've posted plenty of videos about it. Al Sharpton, again, is a bleeding hot liberal, always pushing the race card, always out there when there's a horrific event that happens, so he can march in the front and say, we want justice. And he brought up some other names because they're never going to let it go. They want the St. George Floyd to be remembered as a martyr, as an outstanding citizen, as a great parent, not a criminal, not a drug addict, not a thug. No, he was an innocent man who wasn't high on fentanyl, and there was no drugs in that car. And his autopsy report didn't say anything about he died from a fentanyl overdose, but they want you to believe that he was just killed by a white road cop and had nothing to do with anything else. He was an innocent man at the wrong place at the wrong time. We all know that's bullshit. When these people decide to stop pushing the race card and trying to divide our nation, that's when things will change. But up until then, it's never going to change, because that's all they do. They do it in Congress. They do it in churches, in sermons by the Reverend Al. They are racist people, and they do not like white people. That's why everything that happens today, no matter what color the criminal is, it has to do with white supremacy. And if police are involved, it's because police are bad, their training is bad, and that's just what police do. They become cops to go on the street to beat and kill people because they think they can get away with it. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And these nitwits need to go back and do some soul searching, because in my opinion, they're wrong. And again, they are nothing but racist against white people. And that's it. And that's my opinion. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. Share this video with someone. I'd appreciate that. I hope everybody's healthy and safe. I'll see you soon. Have a great night.